I don't have the kit yet, so there's an O-ring on this solenoid that will need to be changed. Hollow end of the valve up. Spring goes in the valve. Solenoid. And I'm going to see if I can find a O-ring in the meantime that will fit. The retainer goes here. And the manual valve. Alright, let's see here. I should probably make a couple lineup bolts, but I don't know if I have any that are long enough. See how this goes. I may have to make some. What I could do, maybe use my lineup bolts for the CD4E. It may work good enough anyway. Good enough. Alright, we have a spring, and I think it was 374 thousandths ball, and 311. I don't know where I got that from. 188 on the plastic ones. One goes right there. One goes right here. These two fall all the way through. Third one sits there. And our plates. I already put the O-ring on this, so that's going to be in the way. See if we can hold this all together, not lose everything. The shortest bolt goes up here. This silver looking bolt goes right here. That's where they had it. I don't think that's where it goes. I think it goes right here. I could see that going there. The rest of these are the same. Okay. The two with the heads that look like that are right here. and then the 3 heads that look like that are here, here, and here. Let's see, it's probably not good enough. Let's put a couple bolts in here to kind of line that up. Alright, I'll go ahead and tighten up these side plates. Okay, now we can tighten up to 7/16. Filter is serviceable if it's not ripped, and I think I'm going to go clean it a little bit more. And then we have 3 flathead screws that go here and 3 bolts that go here. Alright, for the governor, you have a valve, goes in here. This valve goes in here, spring goes on, the retainer goes with the little nipple down. Looks like so. Make sure we're moving nice and free. Line up your feed holes. 7/16 bolts. Or the heads are 7/16, the threads are not. There, we have a plate. Make sure that the recessed side is facing up. Phillips head bolts on this. Okay, this is going to sit on there this way. Ball is going to line it up, keep it from rotating. And here's our clip. And it's going to be the short end of the taper out towards us. Okay, on the case bushing, we have a recess of 155 thousandths. The oiling journal does not go all the way through on this side down here. It does up here, but not down here. This side it goes all the way through. Okay, on the linkage seal, you have this side, and you have this side. This side faces in. Go ahead and lube that up a little bit. and you just put it in till it's flush. Just like so. Now this stuff here I don't normally take out, and this is how this goes together. Sits in there this way, and you gotta kind of line all this stuff up. Okay, there's a washer and a clip. Alright, pop on there. There we go. Alright, and we have this linkage spring clip on there. On the bottom is this pivot pin. On the top is this pivot pin. Alright, there's a cup plug that plugs that off. Just drive it in flush. I'm going to weld this shut on the tip back here and get this back out of here. Well, here we go. So I just drilled a hole and got a puller on there to pull it out. On your linkage you have the spring and this ball. Linkage goes in like so. This, actually I got that on backwards. And what I was thinking, pop this back off of here, get this turned around like it needs to be. There we go. It needs to be on there this way. Okay, linkage in here. Our booster comb needs to be pointed down. This linkage loops into here. Might be easier to take it off of here. Since we're not wanting to cooperate. There we go. And our little clip holds that on. Alright. Our ball. This is where it gets really hairy. This thing loves to pop out of there while you're trying to stick this all together. Trying to do it away from you is a lot of fun. So I'm probably going to have to bring this over here where I can work on it away from the camera. What they needed to do is put a little hole down in there where you can press that, put a pin in it to hold it down while you're doing all this. Yeah. 7/8 on this nut. And you don't want to go too far because it will pop back out of there. Make sure we're working properly here. Seem to be. Alright. On the forward drum we have an O-ring that goes in here. These are cut pretty much almost square, so it's pretty difficult to get the lip seals in there without screwing them up unless you have some kind of protector. And closest thing, well, the only thing I can do with the forwards or the front drum, it's a lathe cut seal, is use a hose clamp on it. I put a hose clamp around it, I stick it in the freezer for at least 30 minutes usually, and it will do okay. Just come immediately drop it in there. Every once in a while you can just put the hose clamp on it, let it sit there for a little bit, and if you're quick enough about it, you can get it in there. But if you put it in the freezer, it gives you more time to work with it. Square that up just a little bit. Alright, on the direct drum, or rear drum, what they call it, there's an O-ring that goes on here. And every once in a while, you got lathe cut seal out here also. Every once in a while you can use the AOD forward drum seal protector and it'll work. Not always. Just depends on how lucky you are that day. And otherwise I'll just put the hose clamp on here like I did the other and do the same thing. Sometimes it fits too tight. I think this one's going to be too tight. Yeah, I don't think it's going to fit down in that drum properly. Alright, so we'll be putting hose clamp on here. So once I get these two pistons in there, we'll be back. Alright, perfection. It worked just perfect. I left the this one in the piston protector and it sized just fine. In fact, it sized better than that one down there, but because that hose clamp has just a little spot where that rubber is going to be able to pooch out a little bit, but you can just work with the rubber a little bit and it'll go on down in there. You got your return spring, retainer. Snap ring has a taper to the tips. I want the small end of the taper up. We're going to put the opening of the snap ring away from these flats that are right here. There's one on each side. On the bushing back here, the part that doesn't go all the way through is right here. This goes open to the bottom or the top. The bottom is closed, just like that. And the recess is about 120 thousandths. Alright, anybody that watches my channel knows that I don't normally soak my clutches. I did soak these clutches because I don't know how long it's going to be sitting around. These steels have cutouts right here. You can keep all those together, and I don't see any oiling slots, so not going to matter. I've already checked my clearance, so I know that I needed an extra steel, so I'm going to put two together at the bottom. You can put them actually together anywhere that you want to. I'm putting them together at the bottom. And that one did not have any cutouts, so you know what, we're going to put that one at the bottom. Okay, we have the race, has the two flats on it. It's going to have to line up with those flats on the drum. And we have the washer. It goes on here. On your drum here. Anywhere it takes sealing rings, if you can come up with the plastic ones, you're going to want to use those instead. And this one came with plastic, but either way you go, whether you use the steel rings or you use the plastic rings, you're going to want to put them in the bore that they come in, especially on this old stuff, because some of this stuff can have different sizes. Like I had a guy that just called me on a C4. He got it from another shop. The other shop built it, put the sealing rings on the pump, stuck it in, didn't work. They couldn't ever make it work, so ended up at his shop. He went through it, couldn't make it work. He called me up and he said, well, what's going on? I said, did you check your sealing rings in your drum to make sure that they're the right size? And that's what the problem was. There's two different size sealing rings on that pump, and they had the wrong ones in there, and he didn't catch it. But whether you put steel rings or you put the plastic rings, you're going to want to put it in here. Check the clearance of where the opening is. You're allowed about 9 thousandths. I didn't check the book on this one to see, but every one I've ever seen on any of these sealing rings is about 9 thousandths is the maximum that you can have. You really want there to be next to none. And these are fitting just fine. Came with cast iron rings from the kit, but the ones that were in here were plastic. These will keep from ring cutting your stuff. Not that it doesn't do it, but it won't do it near as bad. So I'm going back with the plastic rings. They are still just fine. There's like almost zero clearance on that right there. So that's what I'm going to put in here. On our shaft we have the washer here, and when you're doing these drums here, if you're using the cast iron rings especially, you're going to want to put these on first, put this drum on, then put these on out here, because you can break them, especially the cast iron ones. You can break them just sliding the drum on there. On this drum here we have a ring that's split. It goes in that groove right there. Make sure the split is in between one of these fingers. Doesn't matter which one. Just pick one, stick it in there. This snap ring here, I think was 78 thousandths or 80 thousandths. No, 91 thousandths. And you just work it in there, and if it gets too tight, what happens usually is this plate, you want the dish down on the fingers, and this plate will work over and get in the way. So just slide the bevel plate back, and then you can pop it in there. Just make sure we are all the way up in there. Alright, the input shaft is a top pressure plate on this. It ended up being okay. There are several different ones of these, so make sure that you get them right. And this side goes down, flat side faces up. We have our hub. Nothing goes here. The input shaft is going to push that up. You have a fiber washer, it goes here. If you have cutouts, again, you're going to want to keep the cutouts together. This one does not. Alright, this plate is barely going to sit on there. When that input shaft comes up, it's going to push it up. This bushing here has the same way. The openings are inside. Stops does not come all the way through. The recess is 95 thousandths. Snap ring on the outside here. Thrust washer here. Put your sealing rings on. If need be, you can put some grease in the groove to keep them in place. Especially with the Teflon ones, usually it kind of needs them. And battery run out. Drum on here. And my washer moved over. Should have put some grease on that to keep it lined up. While we're waiting on the pistons to resize, we'll go ahead and do our servos. There's several different sizes, so you're going to have to pick the O-rings that fit properly on what you have. And the return spring goes on there. Lathe cut seal on here. We ball that up. And it's easier to have either two people do this or have a vise. Sometimes you can even do it with a pair of pliers. You can press that down, pop the snap ring inside there. See if we can do it with a pair of pliers. Just make sure that snap ring is all the way in that groove. There we go. Alright, there's no need to take this off of here. Here's our adjuster. And I forgot that this is left-hand threads. And that's going to sit inside there when it's ready to be stopped from being adjustable. We have two tubes. They are the same. Go in here. Go ahead and put our bend lever on here. A little bit of grease. Here again, you're going to pick your O-ring. Move that up a little bit. Put the small end of the spring in. Our retaining plate. And snap ring. This one really is advisable for two people. One can hold it all in, and the other can pop the snap ring in. Alright, we have our hole for our pin. Our ply lever goes in. This one did not have any washers or needle bearings like some of them do. So just line your holes up and then the roll pin goes in, and the one that was in there shattered. So closest I could come to is about 100 thousandths shorter, but it's long enough that it's all the way through both sides, so I'm not too worried about it. Alright, here again we have our lever. I'm going to put that on there just like that. This goes down into the case on top of this bolt. These two bolts hold the servo onto the transmission, and going to be sitting in there just like so. This one's going to go over here. This has to go into the support. This one goes over here. The bushing that came in the kit was a little bit longer than the one that was originally in there, but it's going to be fine. So we're sitting in there a recess of about 38 thousandths. We have race, cup side faces up. We have the bearing. We have the outer race. The long lip faces in. The lip on the sprag faces down. Put it in here first. Alright, and we can put this in here. You don't normally need to take all this out either, unless the sprag is bad. Put the opening away from the opening. Make sure we're all the way up in there. Our inner race. And this is going to be put in the case first. The oiling groove has to be lined up, so make sure that that oiling groove on that bushing is lined up. That one bolt of the rear servo goes into here. These two come in from the outside of the case, and they have star washers on them, and they'll go into the other two spots. And this bushing has a lip on it. It goes all the way flush. And then our washer goes on the back side here. On our pump, the bushing is just below flush. Gasket sealer around the seal, just in case. And press it in. On the bushing for the gear, it's pressed just flush with the back side here. This lip faces down. The inner gear or outer gear does not matter which way it goes, but you should have marked which way it was so you can put it back the same direction. And I don't know how long this thing's going to be sitting around, because I know he's having a lot of other work done to this. You could even put fluid in here if you wanted to. Okay, this screw hole here, this has to line up with that. Flathead screw. Here's our O-ring that goes on here. I put it in the case first. Here's the 4 bolts that hold the pump in. Our band anchor, don't normally take this out. Since he was sending it off to get it sandblasted, I took it out. Did not want it getting lost. There's several different styles here depending on what you got. So this one happened to be offset. Alright, make sure that anchor is all the way down, because if it's not, once it applies and it pushes it up in there, it's going to change your band adjustment. So we got our band. We need this side against that strut there. And these fit really tight, so don't be surprised you're going to have to put some force on it to get it in there. Slide your whole drum assembly in there. Alright, your support. Okay, you can tighten up these two outside center support bolts if you want to. Put your rear band in. Planetary. Alright, your planet is turning, is that counterclockwise, locking clockwise? We can put our front servo in if we want to. Get that strut right there up underneath the band, line that little notch up in the band. There's a little, I guess I should point it out, there's a little pin right there that has to line up in there. Alright, why are we not wanting to line up? Well, I think I should have tried my strut on my band because I think there's a problem. Okay, it was just super tight fitting, I don't know why. We'll put our bolt in through the outside. This is going to sit on top of it. This notch has to fit inside the band there. And this has to fit in the notch of the band down there. Just one of them little trash barrels. Okay, 40 to 45 on these two. 30 to 35 on that one. 25 on the center support. Okay, the front band adjustment is supposed to put a 250 thousandths block in between here, tighten it down to 10 inch-pounds, and it's supposed to be set. This stopper has to be at least one thread back. It'll be in here when it's adjusted properly. I don't go by what they normally say. I go by travel of what the servo does, and I got it right at about 1/8 of an inch of a travel is what I like when it applies. On the rear band, you're supposed to tighten it down to 10 foot-pounds, back it off 1 1/4 turns. That seemed to come out pretty good for this one, so I'm going to leave that one where it was. 20 foot-pounds on the nut. Okay, we're kind of at a standstill until I get my rear seals for the tail housing, because they do not come in the kit if you have this style, and they're proven to be very difficult to find, so we'll be back whenever I find them. On the output shaft here, you have a snap ring that holds it onto the ring gear. Here again, I have plastic rings for the governor, so I'm going to use those. They are butt cut. They go together just like that. You do want to check them in the bore, make sure that they are fitting properly. You can put grease on there if you need to. Don't forget we got our washer that was on here. And our output shaft just slides on. There's nothing between the output shaft and this, I guess what you would call intermediate plate. The bushing does go with the oiling grooves all the way into the inside. They stop before they get to the outside. On these two up here, they do go all the way through. The recess on that is just barely past flush. I mean, it's like 10 thousandths or something. About 6. Doesn't really matter. There is a provision for a washer here. It does not take one. It does take a gasket. On the screws back here, I went ahead and took them out and put some fresh thread sealer on there. Our gasket goes on this way. I'm going to put some gasket sealer on it, and then it just slides on. Until this ledge is up against here and their feed holes are lined up. Make sure that that's so. I'm going to have to slide this back here, and it's going to be off the table when I do that, so you're going to not be able to see that. Let's see, what do we need to talk about now? It's going to be lined up. There's another gasket that goes on this side, and gasket sealer on that also. On our tail housing, there's a snap ring and a bearing that goes in here. It does not matter which way the bearing goes. Keep your opening of your snap ring away from the opening here. There are 2 seals right here. They go back to back. Put it in basically flush from the other side with the face facing this way, flush this way with the face facing that way. There is a weep hole that lets you know when one of them seals is leaking, so make sure that that hole is free. These are the seals that we ended up finding. They are Timken's oh, there we go. TKR 1049. There is a sleeve that goes on here, and then our output gear will sit on top of that. Washer and a nut. Oh, forgot about the governor. Got to put the governor on before we put our tail housing on. And our feed holes are going to be facing that way, lining up with that. Okay. And our ball is going to sit in that hole right there. Lines that up. Snap ring that holds that all in place. Once we get our nut lined up, I could not find a torque spec on this. I've looked at it. It's gonna pretty much line up finger tight, so we're gonna see what the torque is gonna end up being to get to the next hole. And our plate, this one here, I'm not gonna put gasket sealer on in case we need to get to our governor. There's a access hole here for the governor. This plate goes on there. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and put the plate on. 2 flathead bolts. And tighten that down. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to go step by step. I'll show you what I've done. We've talked about it, so now we'll just do it. I should have left this plate off. Yeah, because I'm not going to be able to get my socket on there. Okay, I'm going to take this back off. Okay, housing is on. Ball goes in. Feed holes go to the front. Snap ring with short end of the taper out towards us. All right. Alright, 30 to 35 foot-pounds on the bolts for your tail housing. There's a bracket on the top one over here. Show that to you when we flip this over. Alright, our sleeve goes on. Our output gear. Washer. And the nut. Alright, let me get this torque down. See what all we got to do to get that squared away. Get this towards me so I can see the hole. Get our plate on there. Get our cotter key in there. Bend that over. Then we'll get to the valve body. Alright, we got it assembled. Plates on. Nuts on. It ended up being 110 foot-pounds. Socket is 1 5/16 inches. Okay. Now, let's see if we can get our valve body down into here. Oh, we gotta put our lock up, not our lock up, our kick down connector in. The wire started fraying down here, insulation coming off, so I'll put some heat shrink around there. Got you an O-ring on here. I'm going to put silicone on it anyway, even though it's a new O-ring. They just tend to leak. It's just the nature of the beast with this old stuff. Okay, our valve body, our manual valve, this has to line up on this little knob. Let's see if we can get a view of this. A little knob right there. We have to get our feed tubes up into these two holes right here. Leave your servo a little loose so that you can finagle all that in there. And it's going to be a little bit of a chore doing this. Get up off of this pin a little bit. And see if putting the pin or tubes in the valve body will help any at all. I tell you, the other style Borg Warner units is a lot easier. Alright, plug our kick down wire in. We got two 1/2-inch bolts go in the front. The rest are 7/16. They're all the same. And they go everywhere else. Oh, dang it. I was gonna air check this thing. Getting ahead of myself, thinking about other things, and I forgot one of the most important ones. Okay, this is two cooler. This is a pump intake to the torque converter, from the torque converter, pump output, rear servo, lube, rear clutch, front clutch, and two governor feed and governor output here. And with plastic rings, you're going to get a little bit more of air passing by than you would normally. And this is apply and this is release. So you can see it. Alright, seems to go a lot better if you put this tube in the servo and this tube in the valve body. Alright, valve body bolts are 10 foot-pounds. Okay. We have an O-ring on our modulator pin. Three-quarter-inch wrench, our pan gasket, and usually the pans are pretty deformed, so I put a bead of silicone on the pan side. I also try to straighten it out as best as I can. Here's our pan bolts. There's a bracket that goes on, I believe it was over here, right here. There's the 2 bolts for that. Once I get that on, we'll put the pump in. Okay, put your O-ring in. Put your pump in. It'll only line up one way, but just line up your ports. Foot-pounds on those. Put the bell housing on, 5/8 bolts for that, and 55 foot-pounds. Probably gonna have to put this on the side of the table. Yeah, to get this on there. Okay, here we are, finished. Here is that bracket for our modulator hose, and we're done with this unit. We'll catch you on the next one.